First of all, thank you so much, female founders, for having me again. It's a topic that is so important to me and should be to everyone. It's about gender equality and fighting the climate crisis. So it's about sustainability and how we can tackle it all together or reach it all together. Women in climate tech have to play a key role if we all want to meet the climate targets set by the Paris Agreement. And as we all know, women are the caregivers, are the caretakers, the ones lifting families out of the poverty, providing the families with food, but also the ones that will feel the impacts of the climate crisis way more than men, not only because they sometimes don't have access to funding, but also not to education, etc. My dear panelists, Katharina, Henrietta, and Andrea are pioneers, frontrunners in developing and providing solutions for a sustainable future. It is so great to have three like-minded women here today, and welcome to the panel. You three all founded or co-founded companies in the climate tech field, and I would kindly ask you to shortly give us an introduction of yourselves and what you do. Maybe Katharina can start.
I can kick it off. Yes, I just had to unmute myself quickly. So yeah, what a pleasure to be here, surrounded by great fellow entrepreneurs. It's super exciting. Few words about me. Please call me Katie. I'm the co-founder and CEO of Pointless Travel. We're still quite early stage, and it's been a super exciting journey so far. My goal with this panel is really to lift up women, and if I could achieve one thing, it's to motivate some other fellow entrepreneur out there to kick it off and get into the entrepreneurial journey.
So great what you guys do with your company. Andrea, do you want to go next?
Sure. My name is Andrea, and I'm co-founder of Sensoneo. I co-founded the company together with my husband, so it's actually a very interesting combination. I'm also very happy to be here, and I'm inspired by the stories of other ladies here. And what we are doing at Sensoneo, we are basically supporting and facilitating data-driven waste management to be able to cope with the biggest challenges in today's world of waste management, which is a lack of transparency and a lack of efficiency. So this is what it's our daily business about.
Henrietta?
Hi, I'm super happy to be here as well. Nice to be talking about sustainability with such amazing entrepreneurs. I'm Henrietta Moon. I'm the co-founder of Carbo Culture. And Carbo Culture's mission is to draw down 1 billion tons of carbon dioxide. And so what we do is we have a new way of carbon removal at scale. So we have a patented technology that turns biomass waste into stable form carbon, which then stays stable for 1,000 years. So essentially, we draw down carbon from the atmosphere and keep it down.
Amazing. I'm so excited to hear all of your stories. And I would just jump in with the first question. When it comes to founding a company, especially in climate tech as a woman, or climate tech in general, I would love to hear from all of you, what was the biggest motivator to start working and founding in this field? Did you think about founding like, I want to found a tech company, or was it rather, let's work on the solution for a certain problem? Maybe Katharina, you want to go,
Sure.
first again? Okay, perfect.
Sure. So for me, it was actually in the very beginning, not a climate tech purpose. I was trying to solve a problem, and I was seeing myself as a frequently traveling consultant. And I took a sabbatical to look into it and what kind of solutions there might be to tackle the problem. Because I saw that basically when you're on business travel, you're spending on autopilot, you're not consciously consuming. And we first thought about cost, but then we saw more and more that the CO2 aspect actually plays into it the same way. And step by step, by validating the solution, we found out that also for our customers, it's really, really important to take care of their CO2 footprint. So this is actually how we got into climate tech, by seeing the push from the pull from the customers. Mm-hmm. And for me, it's also great to be in climate tech now, because I feel that you're also having so many motivated people as potential talents joining the company. Also, when you talk to investors, there's so much drive, so much fire behind it. So that's why I just love it. So I would recommend anyone, if you think about climate tech, go for it. Don't go for another field that's really like where there's a lot of passion.
Mm-hmm. It's the future, you know, it's a crisis that we all need to solve together, basically. Yeah. Andrea, would you also answer this question? I think that, I mean, I remember one of the breakout sessions and we had this discussion and you said, well, it's rather about, it's actually about seeing a problem and finding a solution and not being a woman that wants to found a company in tech, right?
Exactly, it was like happening all of a sudden. My original background is communication, PR, and I studied languages. I studied French, and tech is absolutely not my original idea. And actually, I think this is a great advantage for me because I'm the one who is able to actually transform the actual mission of a company to real benefits to people. And it was like really driven by purpose. We were involved in a project before we were running a IT company together with my husband. And we realized how much potential there is. There is an incredible opportunity for innovations in waste management in terms of operations. This is still really done like 60 years ago. There was not much change done. And if I take it like from my experience, when I used to work in the PR field, it's sometimes really hard to find the right topic to talk about. But when you have such solution that we have managed to create, and it's still like just a beginning, it's incredible how easy it's for me to speak about this because it has such a positive impact. Mm-hmm. I don't have to think about, oh, rather avoid that or something like that, because I simply like it's the one way from the start to the end. And I like to speak very much about the actual benefits. So it's very easy and natural, I think. And as well as Katie said, I believe climate tech, green tech, clean tech, these are the fields where the future is.
Mm-hmm. Henrietta, how did you come up with the idea? I mean, you mentioned it in the first question already, but was it the problem that you saw that you wanted to solve, or was it the tech approach that you took?
Yeah, I mean, I've started companies before, so this always felt like my way of doing stuff through entrepreneurship. But I met my co-founder in a program. It was a super intense program at NASA in this very boring side of NASA. But in any case, it was like a place where we had to figure out what to do by leveraging technology to solve some good big problem. And we just started to focus on climate. My co-founder was looking at the climate crisis from an engineer standpoint for over a decade. And so when we kind of played around with a few ideas and thought of biocarbon, it's such a simple way of instead of trying to capture parts per million out of the atmosphere yourself, we let trees and nature do that, and then we just convert it into carbon that stays stable. Mm-hmm. So it felt all in all like a no-brainer. But when I was hopping from my previous company to this company, it was still a big leap of faith because my previous company was doing fine and there was something new again. But I just couldn't I just could not do it. So the climate crisis wasn't really a big deal 5 years ago. But still, I was talking to myself already. I knew that I can't, it's not that I can't get sleep. I can always sleep, but I was really, it was on my mind that if I have one of the solutions, even if it's very small, but even if we have one of the solutions to the climate crisis, who am I to not do it? Because it is such a big thing. So that's kind of like what made me do it. It's like there was absolutely no other option. There was like no other job that I could have taken that I would have stopped thinking about it.
Okay, that's really great. And it's also this kind of mindset, like if you see a problem, just go for it and found and do it instead of like overthinking it. You know, is it tech? Is it this field? Is it that field? If you have a solution in your pocket, you know, just bring it out there. Very interesting. Thank you for your insights. Andrea, one thing that you mentioned as well was that you don't see the sustainability field to be any different from others. It is just about women to be seen and women that need to be heard. Could you specify a bit?
Well, you pretty much explained the whole attitude that I have towards this. Basically, I really don't see any reason why this field should be any different to others. Mm-hmm. Sustainability is with us like anything else, and women simply represent half of this population on Earth. So there is no questioning why we shouldn't be involved in this case, and that's how it explains everything.
Mm-hmm. But shouldn't we be, as women, that especially in some countries, you know, where education is not something that we, you know, that women have access to on a daily basis, etc. I feel like that when it comes to the climate crisis and tackling it, I feel it is a problem that women are not. I'm absolutely with you. You know, we need to be equal and we need to tackle this all together. So yeah. It should not be a discussion about the field that we are founding in, you know, because we should just be equal and just be able to found whatsoever company we want and in which field, you know, whatever we want. But I feel like when it comes to technology, especially now that everybody is talking about climate tech, and maybe you, Kati or Henrietta, could also jump into this question. I mean, innovation is not predictable, as we heard. Technology does not have a mind of its own. And right now, you know, what we see is that men invent things or programs, you know, for men and this similarity principle. So I feel like when it comes to climate tech, we need even more women out there, you know, to tackle it. Yeah. Would you agree?
If I can jump in, like, I do think that like, yes, apps and kind of like computer tech has had a problem with diversity for the past 20 years maybe, but the new areas that we're talking about, like carbon tech, sustainability tech, it includes everything like biotech, pharmaceuticals, different kinds of areas of science where women are strongly represented. And so I think that we're going to see a real influx of PhD women coming in, or even just women who have started studying some natural sciences and then saw maybe they should do something else. So I really and also there's a big wave of second time entrepreneurs coming into climate tech, which is amazing. So hopefully we can get a lot of kind of women leadership there, and then if you have more women leadership, I believe it'll attract younger talent, it'll attract people to work there. Like, you just need kind of like, yeah, it's like everybody needs something to kind of look at and be like, okay, I want to be better than that.
Kati, what in your opinion would thrive innovation in the field of female technology?
Yeah, from my and especially pointless travel view, it's really about behavioral change when it comes to climate, to a challenge that we have with the climate change. So I have an engineering background, so I like to always think in an engineering kind of manner, and I think like currently we're driving full speed with all kind of technology in one direction, but it's still a direction towards a planet that we will probably not want to live on, right? And if you think about it from an engineering point of view, it's really hard to change your trajectory, like the direction, when you're driving fast. If you're driving slower, it's easier, but if you're driving fast as we do, it's difficult. And for this, we need to change our behavior. And for us as Pointless Travel to understand the behavior of our users, the business travelers, we need to understand the values behind their behavior, what drives them, which immaterial and material values. So as a single person, you cannot understand everyone's values, right? For us, therefore, it's super, super important to have a diverse team. So we are actually currently 50-50 in male, female, but it's not only about male and female. I think it's about all kind of diversities, because you need to include everyone. So it's also about all the CEO, students, whoever needs to be involved into the solution that we're building for the society, which is so diverse. So with all those new companies being created, I think we need to look out that we have a diverse set of people being involved to build a solution, so it's a solution for everyone.
Very interesting. I would like to talk about barriers as well in this discussion. Why? Because we tend to talk about barriers quite often, especially when it comes to not founding or not deciding to found a company because of certain barriers. You know, whether it's the system that is not working, the education that is not there, the financing that is not existing, the legislation that is not in our sort of, you know, that is not pro female founder leadership. Andrea, I would like to hear whether you have experienced barriers in your career and how you overcame them.
Surely I did, and a very important thing to mention is that we were actually starting with the company after our second daughter was born out of 3. So I was actually on that, call it maternity leave, when I was, I started to get involved more and more in Sensoneo. And at the beginning, I felt very comfortable in that role, you know, talking from behind, giving suggestions, but not really being responsible. And later on, I just realized that it has to be some decision made. Who am I actually? And how much I actually, how is the impact on me in the company? And that's why where I simply realized there should be more of me involved in the company, and we basically shared the ratio with Martin, my husband, 50-50, and that's exactly where I started to be bold about my opinion, about the strategy that we should take, and anything else. So basically it was a decision I had to make, because sometimes really I think the barriers are setting by women themselves, who are sort of like a questioning their own judgment, opinion, and not being sure. I really don't know, and this might be a topic for a 2 hours discussion, where does this come from, whether it is like sort of educational habits or what it is that it's put on girls, but I see it quite often, that women need to need basically more courage to decide. But once I have done this and I experienced that, let's call it power or whatever it is, I like the idea and I stick to it, and that's basically my approach since then.
Very interesting. It's also about you know, trusting yourself, but also maybe finding other women that empower you, or, you know, empowering each other is a big thing that I always come up with when it comes to not only the climate crisis discussion, but in general, you know, supporting each other and understanding that feminism and fighting for equality is a good thing for the whole society, you know. So that is a very interesting point. So trusting or believing in yourself way more is of course something that everybody should take from this panel. Another barrier that I hear a lot about when it comes to sustainability is basically the complexity of the climate crisis and the problem itself. And maybe Henrietta, you could tell us where to start. Sometimes people feel so overwhelmed with, you know, even the small steps feel hard because people want to do things right when it comes to a sustainable lifestyle or more sustainable lifestyle. How do you, what would you recommend them in terms of like, just do it? Or is it yeah, I understand it's super complex and, you know, maybe come up with this or that agenda?
Yeah, I mean, I think so. So a good kind of starting book might be Bill Gates' newest book. I can't remember what it's called, but it's his newest climate book. It just released last week. So it kind of lays out the fundamentals. Like there's this much greenhouse gases in the atmosphere. This is what needs to happen. But basically, yeah, two things need to happen. We need to remove carbon from the atmosphere, and then we need to reduce the carbon that's going into the atmosphere. And kind of like understanding the fundamentals of that, like just because something's biodegradable, it doesn't mean that it doesn't consume in the environment or something else. So kind of like just maybe reading up and thinking about things, but really starting a company in any field. I mean, med tech or personal finance is no easier than starting a company necessarily in climate tech. So I don't think that should be a reason why people should shy away. Climate is a huge market, and investors are starting to understand it as well. So I think it's a great time to actually get in and start learning now, and be one of the first people, because it doesn't matter what company you start. There is no university, no book, no nothing that can teach you everything that you have to learn during your journey. So you're just gonna have to jump in and swim. And so if you do that earlier, you'll be earlier and you'll be ahead of the curve. So I would just recommend doing it.
A question that is also something that we hear a lot. I mean, the topics of greenwashing and impact washing. So once you started a company in the climate tech field, you want to make sure that you actually do better. We hear a lot about CSR, corporate responsibility, et cetera. How do you, and this question goes to Andrea and Kathi and Henrietta, how do you make sure that your company actually generates impact? That is something that would really interest me.
Yeah, I can go ahead with this. So basically, maybe I need to explain a bit what we do with pointless travel, and then it will be kind of obvious, I hope. So what we do through our software is we empower business travelers to take conscious decisions and therefore reduce the CO2 footprint and cost for their employers. And I'm super happy that we have Sarah on board. Sarah is our CBDO, also co-founder, and she used to work for Atmosphere. They reduce the carbon footprint for companies, or they sorry, not reduce, but they compensate it. And what's great about Atmosphere is that they have a neutral view. Like CO2 is calculated differently by all kind of different providers. Airlines calculate it differently, for example. And because of her experience, we have kind of the insight on how do you basically calculate your CO2 footprint in a neutral way, not with any lobbyism, let's say, in it. And we then reduce the CO2 footprint by rewarding behavior that helps to reduce it. And that for us means, on the one hand, let's say single use. So if you take the train instead of a plane, you will get a reward. And on the other hand, we're also trying to take into account the infrastructure that's necessary, that's also leaving a footprint behind. So pooling people helps there, motivating people to take a plane, which is already overbooked, leaves a lower CO2 footprint at least than a plane where you're sitting in there alone, because the whole CO2 footprint only goes on your account. So for us, it's really about measuring this difference that you make by your behavior and then showing it to the traveler, but also to the company. And therefore, it goes along that we cannot even do greenwashing. It has to be a real impact that we leave behind.
Okay. Andrea, what about your company?
Yeah, with us, it's also very easy because basically any deployment we do is directly connected to carbon emission footprint decrease. Basically what we do, I could also talk about this like a half an hour and I would be happy to, but let's make it short. This is basically two ways we are sort of impacting the environment. One is directly decreasing the unnecessary costs and unnecessary routes to be made. And this is really about talking about vehicles which consume about 70 liters per 100 kilometers. Those collection trucks, incredible harm to the environment, and there was no deployment where we wouldn't use more than 30% of that. So it's like a very direct impact. And on the other hand, we are providing, especially cities in the EU region. We already see new regulations popping up that are setting very ambitious objectives to cities to really decrease the amount of waste being produced, to recycle better, to avoid landfilling. But there are no solutions available for them to do it like easily and in such a quick manner, because this is really set to happen in 9 years. So that's exactly where we step in. We help them to discover the real data about the actual production. We help them to uncover the waste streams, which is something very critical. This is something which is sort of, in a blur or not easy to find. We have managed to do a global waste index where we have compared the efficiency of waste management in all OECD countries, and this is incredible in terms of results and how much countries are different one from the other. So basically the entire topic we do, everything we do is fully focused on bringing efficiency and transparency in the process. In general, especially when we started, I was sort of sick of that greenwashing popping up, especially when some bank announced an initiative. I was like, oh God, what are you talking about? But I must say that with some time, I see actually even those activities as actually positive in the end. Because it's really about, it's sometimes really hard, the best example to follow, and it's extremely hard not only for other companies but also for individuals to actually identify them with such a hero. But if you are seeing really many companies, all of them basically now doing those small steps forward, it's actually, I believe it's overall bringing better impact in the end. So I'm not that sick of greenwashing any longer, but I still find it like very funny in some situations. That's true.
What about you, Henrietta? Are you also a big believer in progress over perfection, or, especially when it comes to the big corporates that have a lot of money? How do we make sure that there is no impact / greenwashing involved?
Yeah, I mean, a lot of people have been talking about carbon neutrality lately, and a lot of companies have announced that they're going to go carbon neutral, including dairy companies and some like very heavy emitters, which I don't think that they fully understood what they've gone and promised, because there's two things that people mix up quite a lot in this field. This is like very much like 2021. So basically carbon offsetting, which can be any kind of energy efficiency, substituting green energy, supporting a forest being left where it is, for example, but it won't take carbon out of the atmosphere. So if you emit 1 ton and then you offset 1 ton, you're still adding 1 ton to the atmosphere. So basically people haven't fully understood that if you emit 1 million tons and then you offset 1 million tons, you've still emitted 1 million tons. And so now companies like Swiss Re, Microsoft, Stripe, and others are actually looking at carbon removal, or a portfolio approach where they actually do offsets, such as forests, and then actually do carbon removal on top of that. So really now companies like, and the kind of baseline why it's so important that we talk about this with the right terminology is that if the world does not get to net zero by 2050, and if we do not have our emissions by 2035, we will have more global warming.
Mm-hmm.
And the ice age was just 6 degrees less than what we have today. So you can imagine what 2 degrees warming will do to this planet. So this is why we need to understand that the terms that we use need to be scientific. And that's why the greenwashing has been a little bit actually quite harmful in some ways. But now I think that there's more and more actors also trying to educate CEOs and companies and governments and everybody about these terminology and how can we really go by science. And so I think that it's changing now, and hopefully, even though it's more expensive, it's more tenuous, there's a lot of reasons why to do something the easy way out, but now I think there's no more room for that. So I think people are really being responsible and starting to understand it.
Thank you for this very this answer made me think, and it was really good to talk about this. Kati, as you mentioned in your sort of opening statement, you mentioned that you really want women to found tech companies, especially climate tech companies. You founded one. What is the most important ingredient for you to succeed with your venture? What would you say?
That's a tough one because there's a lot of ingredients that are necessary. But if I would name one, it's people, and basically the core team that puts sweat in it, that supports you morally, that take the risk to build a business that might succeed, might not succeed. That's the one big ingredient. And by people, I also mean everyone who doesn't work full-time or part-time on this business, but who supports it somehow, like your network, everyone who spreads the word, talks to other people about it, refers you, also customers. It's really about spreading the word and getting the solutions out. So for me, this is super important to build a network, as I think first I heard it from Sheryl Sandberg in her very well-known book Lean In. You should take some time to build a network. Female Founders is a great network as well that supports this. So yeah, that would be my one ingredient, I would say.
Very good. Henrietta, do you have one ingredient? And Andrea?
I'd say grit. You just have to kind of pull through. It's not going to be easy, but I don't think many things necessarily should be easy. There's a lot of good things that you can do, and you're building something absolutely new. So it's very exciting.
Very good.
So be perseverant, have grit.
Andrea?
Yes, I also think that to switch from activism to entrepreneurship is something that gives much more competence to your idea and to your goal. And it's definitely something I would strongly recommend. It's something which empowers not only women, but the overall mission that we are talking about today, the climate crisis. Yeah.
So I think we've got 1 minute left, so that's why I would love to sum up this panel. I think that we all agree on how important it is that female find their role in climate tech, and that they are at the front line together with men to solve the crisis that we get from activism to entrepreneurship, as you just said, Andrea, and to make sure that there is no green/impact washing, but really this take people by their hand and show them how the green future, a more sustainable future could look like. Especially we as women are the ones that are really good in showing the things and communicating it. So I think that this is really the outcome, I would say. And maybe one last round, if you would have to come up with a hashtag out of the most important aspect from this panel, what would it be? Henrietta, maybe you could start.
I'm so bad at this, but I'll say like hashtag carbon, like have some North Star that's your metric.
What would it be, Kati?
I would probably say, to underline my last statement, let's do it together.
Let's do it together. Very nice. Andrea, what about you?
I would suggest be bold, and this is not only to really highlight the importance of the climate crisis, but for women, not to be afraid to make actions the way they want.
Really, really good. So thank you so much for your time, for giving us those really, really, hands-on insights on what founding and being a girl, a lady boss in this field of climate tech can look like. It was an honor meeting all of you. I hope to stay in touch. And I think I'll now hand over to Lisa and Nina again. Thank you so much, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.